how do we find x-intercepts of a quadratic function? Now, remember that x-intercepts happen when y equal to 0. In order to find x-intercepts, we're going to take the equation of the quadratic function, set it equal to 0, and solve it for x, right? Because y should be 0. So y is f of x. Okay, now, there are multiple methods you can approach this problem by using, for example, quadratic formula, but you can also use what's called the AC method. So let's quickly review how to do that. Okay, so we're going to just go ahead and draw this sort of little diagram where on the top we're going to put what is A multiplied by C. Okay, 3 multiplied by -6, that's going to be -18. And then on the bottom, we're going to put the b number, which is the coefficient of x. Okay, so that's going to be this guy right here. That's 17. That's going to go on the bottom. Now, here is where you have to think. You want two numbers that would multiply to the top number, -18, okay, and add to 17. Now, because those two numbers are when multiplied give you a negative answer, one of them has to be negative and the other one is positive. For example, -1 and +18, when you multiply them, that's -18, right? What happens when you add them? -1 plus 18 is 17. I immediately figured it out. It's usually not hard. You just look at a couple of possibilities and then you figure it out. Okay, so this -1 and then 18, right? Again, multiply those will give you -18, which let's just get that here. And then add it will give you the bottom number. Okay, now, unfortunately, you're not done, but you're close. Okay, so what you have to do next, once you find these two numbers, -1 and 18, you're going to break the middle term, the 17x, apart using these two numbers. So you're going to say that's going to be -1x plus 18x minus 6. So what did I do? I took 17x and I broke it apart into -1x plus 18x, right? All I did is I just took the term and broke it into 2. Now what we're going to do is factor by grouping. How do we do that? Well, we're going to look at the first two terms and ask, what do they share? Now we can see that 3x squared is really 3 times x. And then here is just 1x. And looks like they're just sharing an x. We can take it out. Once we take it out, what will be left from each term? Okay, so if I were to cross out this 1x, what's left is 3x minus, if I'm crossing out this x right here, it's gone, then I have left 1. Okay, next we are going to look at 18x and 6. Well, they do not share an x, but you can write 18 as 6 multiplied by 3, right? So 6 would be the what's called the GCF, or the greatest common factor. And then we multiply this by what's left. So imagine that 6 is gone. And now we have 3x minus. Now, when you took 6 out, what's left? You may be tempted to say, well, nothing is left. Well, that's not true, because what you want is two terms, right? There were two terms here, and there has to be two terms once you take out the 6. And what you do is just think of 6 as 6 multiplied by 1. Then it's going to be clear to you that when you take the 6 out, 1 is the one that's going to be left. Also, when you factor by grouping, you must make sure, let's see if we can use another color, is that this factor must match this factor. So otherwise the grouping thing did not work. Maybe you didn't break the numbers apart correctly. Now that you see that they're matching, now you can factor it out. So what do they share? 3x minus 1. And then what's left from the first term is just x, plus the second term is 6. Okay, now that I factored it, I'm just going to put it here. And now I want to know, okay, what would be the x-intercepts? Now, what was the whole purpose of this factoring? Like, why did I do that? Because now I'm going to use what's called the zero factor property. That means that I'm going to take the x plus 6 and set it equals 0, because I know that if you have two factors and they're multiplied and they give you 0, there is only one way that can happen. Either one of them is 0 or the other one, right? It's one or the other. It's not both, one or the other. Okay, is if x plus 6 is 0, if we subtract 6 from both sides, we get x equals negative 6. If 3x minus 1 is 0, we can add 1 to both sides, and then we get 3x equals to 1, or x equals to 1/3. Now we have the two intercepts, and then when we finally type our answer, we want to type them as points on the graph. Negative 6 is the x coordinate, but the y will be 0. The other one is 1/3 and 0. Okay, so those are your x-intercepts. Now, what about the y-intercept? To find the y-intercept, that's actually very, very easy. You just have to plug in x equals 0. But when you plug in x equals 0, if you were to replace this x with 0 and this x with 0, 0 multiplied by anything is 0. That means that the first two terms will just drop out, and the only thing that's going to be left is negative 6. That means that the y-intercept is going to be, well, x equals 0. It's like the other variable is 0, and then y equals negative 6.